All right, hey guys, Reba Hodge here at Oregon Health and Science University, working with Foundations of EM and Andrew Perrotte out of University of Kansas and Kristen Grabo-Moore out at Emory. Today, we're going to be talking about using a Mac blade. If you guys are not familiar, maybe this is your first month in emergency medicine or crit care and getting airways. This is a standard Mac blade. So your Mac blade is going to be the blade that is curved a little bit, almost like a C. Just for comparison, we'll talk about this later, but your Miller blade is the straight blade. That's the one that is kind of like a straight L. It's a great way to keep them apart. We're going to talk about the positioning of a Mac blade and the valleculae, and then how to choose a Mac blade size. And so right now I'm using traditional direct laryngoscopy. I don't know how many of you guys are still familiar with the direct laryngoscopy, but it may be the only thing available to you one day. So this little guy hooks into this on top, folds down. When it folds up, you'll see a light come on. So these are going to be in most airway kits for DL if you don't have a glide scope available to you at like an emergency on the wards. As far as how to choose a Mac blade, what you want to do, usually adults are going to be a Mac 3 or a Mac 4. I'm going to show you for comparison here the two sizes. So Mac 3 is obviously smaller than a Mac 4. One way I've always picked the size of blade that I'm going to use is just going up and feeling the patient's hyoid bone, basically feeling their Adam's apple, if you will. And if it's up really high, close to their chin, I'm pretty comfortable that I'm going to be able to use a Mac 3. If it's pretty low, like in our friend here, it's about down here, I'm going to need more like a Mac 4 to get all the way down there. I'm going to show you, when you're lifting up on the epiglottis to get your view, what you're actually lifting up on is the patient's hyoid bone. And so if you really want to measure to pick a blade size, you want to take the end of the blade from their hyoid bone to their lip. And the end of the curve should sit at their lip. You can see for our friend here, this Mac 3 blade's a little bit short. So we're going to pick a Mac 4 blade. And see how the end of the curve kind of ends at his lip here. It's a much better size for him. The other thing we're going to talk about is placement of this in the patient's mouth. I'm sure you can see that one side of this blade, well, one side of the apparatus is an actual blade, and the other side has kind of an open area underneath it. So the purpose of this, that a lot of people forget, is to actually use the blade to sweep the tongue out of the way. So when you place the blade in the patient's mouth, you're going to take the right side of the patient's tongue and sweep it over to the left as you start to lift up. These blades are also made with this opening here. This part of the blade is open, so when you sweep your tongue out of the way, your ET tube is actually going to come in from the side here. If you place your ET tube straight down the blade here, you're going to obstruct your view. And so I'll show you guys. Blade goes in on the right side of the patient's mouth, tongue gets swept over to the midline, and then I'm going to come in to the side of my blade, because my tongue is nice and out of the way, and be able to deliver the tube over towards the midline. And we'll show you guys a great view of that on the glide scope in just a minute.